Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about how to use Canva to create marketing materials for your Outschool classes. Let's get started. I use a program called Canva to make my infographics. Now I have the paid subscription version. I think that it's about $15 a month, and I really recommend that to anyone who's going to use it. But there is a free version available, so you can absolutely try out the free one and then go from there. I keep all of these pictures uploaded to Canva so that they're just ready to access for me. That's pretty helpful. It really lets me kind of just go straight to work on Canva and not worry about uploading individual things. As far as the pictures are concerned, those are all pictures that I've edited in Photoshop and added a white border around. Let me know if that's something you'd like to know how to do. It's not something I'm especially great at, but it's something that I'm learning to do, and it definitely helps them kind of pop out from the background, or at least I think so. Now the class listing that you see up there, the picture of it, that's a screenshot taken on my cell phone. You have a few options as far as getting those class listing photos. One would be to take the screenshot on your cell phone, and it's gonna look like that, kind of in a portrait orientation. You can also get a screen grab off of your laptop, and that's going to put it in more of a landscape orientation. Those look great, and I kind of use them for different things. For Instagram, I tend to use those portrait orientation pictures just because I am having to make this into a square, and I want to make sure that there's enough room around it to add other elements. But you could absolutely just screenshot it from your computer as well. The next step is trying to figure out fonts. So Canva has all of these fonts put together already. So they're nice different combinations that seem to be pretty aesthetically pleasing, and that's pretty handy. I usually start with those fonts and then kind of edit from there. The font is super important because it has to be legible. You have to be able to read it pretty easily on Instagram, where it might be pretty small, especially if it's on a cell phone. And it also just needs to kind of pop out. So the font is an important thing, but we'll talk more about that later. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out what to do with this Outschool logo. So sometimes I include the Outschool logo in my infographics. A lot of times I don't include it, and you can see that I've decided to take it out of this one. The reason for that is that my brand isn't necessarily Outschool. My brand is me, so I try to keep with my brand colors. I like to include either my pictures of myself or Bitmoji to kind of make sure that everybody who sees this knows immediately that this belongs to me. Outschool is a company that I'm contracted to work under, but it's not my entire brand. I'm my whole brand, so I want to make sure that I'm kind of in the forefront of everyone's mind when they look at my infographics. Now this is a pretty cool thing that Canva offers, so I definitely want to make note of it, and this is the clip art library. So Canva has tons and tons and tons of clip art available for free. This is all public domain, royalty free. You don't need to worry about using it in advertising. If you're going to find clip art in other places, for example, if you're going to purchase clip art from somebody on Teachers Pay Teachers or perhaps on Etsy, please make sure that you double check the licensing and make sure you're allowed to use it in your advertisements. For most of the clip art that I've purchased from Etsy or Teachers Pay Teachers, I've had to also purchase extended licenses, so definitely check into that. You don't want to end up with a copyright infringement lawsuit just because you didn't check who actually owned the clip art that you're using, and if you were allowed to use it for profit situations like this. The same thing goes with any kind of class listings that you're putting up on Outschool, and also any of your materials, things like worksheets, for example. While we're on the topic of worksheets, I actually use Canva to create a lot of my worksheets for my classes. They have tons of free templates that are already available for you to access and for you to change, so that's another big draw for me to use Canva for this. It just saves me a little bit of time over using something like Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign. From here, my main goal is aesthetics, trying to make sure that things look good, trying to make sure that things make sense. One thing that I love to use that's available on Canva is I love to use overlays, and overlays just add a little bit of depth. They allow you to change the color of your image a little bit, make it look different, make it look a little bit grungier. This particular class is a history of rock and roll class, so I definitely want it to feel a little bit more mature and a little bit just grungier than I might want a class intended for small children to feel. I'm also adjusting the transparency and the color of those overlays. Canva allows you to adjust colors very often on things like clip art and overlays, so that's another perk to using their program. You can go in and change the colors to match your brand, as opposed to when you find clip art online and then you would have to enter it into Photoshop, manually change it. It's a whole situation. It takes forever. So I definitely recommend looking into that clip art that's available to you on Canva. From here, I'm going to mess around with things like color and text and overlays, so I think I'm going to go ahead, put this in fast forward, and meet you back here at the end. From here, the very last thing that I'm doing is I'm making sure that font is legible. Remember, the font is one of the most important things that you can add to your infographic, and if people can't read it, it's not going to help you out. So I like to pick a font that's a little bit fun, a little bit different, a little bit cutesy maybe, depending on what my vibe kind of is, but also one that's super legible. I also realized as I was editing this font that starting tomorrow wasn't a great thing to include on there, because there's a chance that people are going to see this infographic long after I put it up on Instagram, and it's still going to be available. Hopefully this class will be available for a long time. So instead I decided to switch it to starting and the date, so starting Monday, June 6th. I thought that was probably a better choice. I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you'll come back and see me soon. Bye for now.